Hi,
Thanks a lot.
Jurgis. Thanks for joining us
Hi.
today.
My pleasure.
Um, we'll just spend a few minutes together, but perhaps a great place to jump off is if you could give me just a quick introduction of who you are and a brief overview and a history of IMAP.
Okay, my name is Jurgis Oniunas. That's, for anybody that doesn't understand that, that's a Lithuanian name. My parents came from Lithuania, but I grew up in the United States, which you can tell from my accent. I came there when I was 6 months old. My background is in engineering. I have a degree in electrical engineering and a master's in nuclear engineering. And eventually an MBA in finance and international business, which has led me to doing international projects in different parts of the world. So I am the chairman of IMAP, of the IMAP organization, and double as kind of interim CEO. IMAP is an organization that is made up of independent firms which are primarily working in mergers and acquisitions in the middle market. And by middle market we define as deals up to $500 million. Although most of our deals are in the range of 50 to 100 million, something like that. We have pretty fat tails. We have deals that are this year we did a deal which was several $billion, and we have a number of deals that are in the range of $10 million. So IMAP, as I say, has a pretty broad range. We were founded in 1973, which makes it one of the oldest organizations of its type, as an association of M&A boutiques, primarily in the United States. They eventually expanded to Europe, Latin America, and Asia. And when my company joined IMAP back in 2005, there were about 65 member firms. Most of them were small boutique firms in the U.S. In 2006 and 2007, we went through a professionalization process to actually have a central coordinating body. Up until then, it was a voluntary group. And the objective was to provide more services to its members, to foster more international cooperation and deal making. And the result was that, we lost a good number of those U.S. firms, where today we have only 36 firms, but they're much larger and much more relevant in their market. So we lost the small firms, we gained the large firms, we kept the large firms, and we've replaced some small firms with some large firms. So today we have 36 member firms, as I say, covering 43 countries. Around 250 senior deal makers, altogether about 600 people with analysts and support staff, and we do deals. So last year we did 218 transactions in 15 sectors. These are just numbers, but they were worth around $12.5 billion. Which gives us an average deal size of around 60 million, which is what I was mentioning. This year so far, we're on our way to a record year. We have 185 transactions to date with a value of 18 billion. There were a couple of quite large deals in that. And around 30% are cross-border deals. And we consistently, as an organization, score around in the league tables, which I know nobody believes in, but we're usually we're always in the top 10, but we're usually 6 or 7 behind the big 4 accounting firms and some of the bulge bracket banks.
In terms of unique differentiators, what really sets IMAP apart from other mid-market advisories?
First of all, I think the word unique is overused. I mean, unique is something that nobody else has. But I think a lot of us and a lot of organizations like ours are trying to do the same thing. So what sets people apart in this thing is how successful you are in achieving some of those goals, and how successful you are in meeting your objectives. So first of all, I think it's fair to say that we're quite picky on who we bring into IMAP. So we're not satisfied by just planting a flag on some territory or on some area. We always try to attract the best available partner that is compatible with the rest of the organization, and that compatibility is very important to us. So what does that mean? It's based on professional standards, which of course everybody will say that they have, but we really try to make sure that we have good standards around the world that people can turn to IMAP and have the same level of professionalism anywhere in the world. Secondly, maybe we could mention that the companies or our partners have to be very relevant in their market. Now, they don't have to be number one or number two, but they have to be well-known, highly respected, and doing relevant deals in the marketplace. Thirdly, the size of transaction matters. Now, we always have this issue in a large organization. There are some organizations that deal only with big markets, and obviously they do bigger deals. And then we have some organizations like ours which try to be inclusive and international, and so we try to do the deals appropriate for the market. Big deals in big markets, smaller deals in smaller markets, but with the ability to do the large deals when they come up. So it's a matter of finding that balance between market size and deal size, compatibility with your other partners. That's very important to us. Also, all of our partners have to have an international cooperation has to be part of their business model. They can't be focused only on local deals. IMAP, the whole purpose of IMAP is to foster cross-border cooperation and cross-border deals. So we need firms that are focused on that. And probably most importantly, you have to share a similar set of values and a willingness to share and be part of a larger international team. That's difficult to define what it is. But like one Supreme Court justice said about pornography, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. And there is a special kind of relationship that we have within the IMAP organization. What it actually means, all of this, is that sometimes we can't find the right partner in a particular market. So be it. If we can't, we can't. We have workarounds for that. But it also means that we're, building an organization that's built on trust among the members, which is probably the most important characteristic of our network. Trust. We can pick up a phone at any time on a moment's notice. We can provide support. We can provide experience. We can provide know-how and contacts to investors for any deal taking place anywhere in the world, and help our partners to achieve that. And that's one of the things that sets us apart. We are invested in making all of our partners successful. So it takes a lot of coordinating. It takes a lot of, I wouldn't say cajoling, but we create the opportunities for people to be able to cooperate, to know each other, and to make those connections so that they actually can trust each other. Now, most of our clients are entrepreneurs, and most of our member firms are led by entrepreneurs. So we understand what it means, what sacrifices you need to make to build an organization, and what it means to then want to sell that organization in a transition. And that's sometimes difficult. It's difficult emotionally. It's difficult from a process point of view when your view of your company's worth doesn't exactly match what an investor is willing to give you. But basically, we look at ourselves not so much as, not only as deal makers, because we are deal makers, we are technicians. We know the ins and outs of how to of valuations and how to do deals and so forth and so on. But I think an underestimated and a very important part of our job is to act as guides, act as not mentors, but as guides to our clients, to lead them through all of these processes and all of these roadblocks to achieving what they want to achieve. We have the same approach to private equity firms and family offices and to large corporates, which are also a more and more important part of our client base. But our core base are the individual entrepreneurs, especially on the sell side of that. So it's a long-winded answer to a simple question. There's not only one factor. IMAP has a collective set of values and principles. We foster it through internal communications, through panels, through conferences, as I mentioned. This drives us, kind of unites us, and forms us into kind of a tribe. And it's all about energy and chemistry and some willingness to see all of our partners succeed, as I mentioned already.
Yeah, it's a special alchemy when you bring these organizations in the different areas of specialty and industry and segment and geographic focus. One thing that really strikes me as you've been speaking is the breadth and the volume of work that the IMAP does in terms of the deal activity. And that must give you some very unique insight into deal activity. And I know that there's many different perspectives and lots of discussion around COVID recovery, but I'd be interested in what your point of view is in terms of what you're seeing from a COVID recovery standpoint. Are there regions or sectors that are recovering more quickly?
So I can mention some M&A drivers, which are pretty obvious and kind of well known to everybody. So years of underinvestment that somehow, you have a situation like COVID, and all of a sudden says, "Oh my God, look at the," people have a chance to slow down and say, "Wow, look at this mess we're in. We really need to do something." Years of underinvestment, rush to digitalization, and we can expand on that. Cheap debt. Although interest rates are rising at the moment, but I don't think that will be really that relevant. Cash-rich private equity, a lot of money floating around. Private equity corporations have a lot of cash. ESG issues, and ESG is going to be another driver, and that will be one of the themes of one of our upcoming conferences. But you know what? I saw this question, and since I see my role as more cheerleader in chief than anything else, I wanted to refer to some of comments that some of our deal makers have made. So let me just go through a couple of them, and that'll give you a good answer to your question. So Sarah Doherty of Capstone Partners of IMAP USA mentions, M&A volume climbed 31% year on year in 1H 2021. Market fully correcting itself. Low interest rates, aggressive buyer competition, driving purchase multiples up, average deal value reaching historical highs. We expect robust year-end activity. Andrew Kemper, Capital West Partners in Canada. We would categorize the market as an aggressive, seller-friendly market with an abundance of capital competing for deals and driving very robust valuations. Marcio Fuiza from Brazil Spar, IMAP Brazil. We expect that 2021 will end up being one of the best years in recent history. Tomoyuki Izumi from IMAP Japan, Pinnacle in IMAP Japan. M&A market involving Japanese companies expected to hit a record high in 2021 as they invest in growth areas in the hope of overcoming the competition in a post-coronavirus world. Ashutosh Maheshwari. Deal activity in India continues to grow. IMAP India, by the way. This is being driven by several factors, including the state of the equity capital markets, low interest rates, considerable surge in profitability of large corporates. We see the technology sector continuing to draw a large pool of growth capital. Just a couple of more. Piotr Chudzik, Trigon Investment Banking, IMAP Poland. M&A clients continue to take advantage of the high exit multiple environment. Buy side is becoming more cautious due to an expected rise in inflation levels, potentially resulting in a rise in interest rates. Henning Graw, IMAP Germany. After the pandemic, the focus is clearly on growth, which will also be achieved through M&A. Ongoing recruiting is one of our most important management tasks in the war on talent. So the message is the same all over the world. We're getting the message back. Unbelievable environment. Some clouds on the horizon. What will happen with inflation? Is inflation transitory, which depends on what you mean by transitory. I mean, transitory could mean the next year or more, but and what effect that will have. Commodity prices are increasing, which should be great for developing markets. M&A activity, we're kind of at an inflection point because with digitization, with new initiatives like ESG, with new infrastructure projects, I think Goldman Sachs the other day mentioned that they think we're at only the beginning of a major M&A cycle, and that this M&A activity that we're seeing now is maybe just the first mini wave of a much longer positive M&A environment. We try to monitor opportunities, sectors as they're changing. We try to make our partners aware of that. If the time comes where there's a market turnout, we've all built up our restructuring teams at the same time and learned a lot from the M&A activity that's actually taking place now.
Mm-hmm. We've certainly seen the same in our business. As you know, as a virtual data room provider, folks are opening up projects and data rooms at a record rate. And so certainly the exuberance that you're feeling from some of your members is certainly reflected in our business as well. You mentioned lessons, and I find it really interesting because I think when we think about the pandemic, there's near-term business impact, and then there's lasting business impact to the pandemic. And one of the things that I'd be interested in understanding is what lessons has the pandemic taught IMAP in terms of how to best support clients on a go-forward basis?
Well, I can speak for myself, and probably it's the same for a lot of our partner firms. First of all, the obvious. We've realized that you don't need to get on a plane every time you need to have a meeting. So Zoom, Teams, at the moment we're on Skype, have taught us that you can achieve 80% of what you need to do without spending days in taxis and airports and hotels, okay? So it actually means, but what does that mean? It actually means that we're working more, we're contacting more clients, but more efficiently. We're using online tools which were there before, but somehow we weren't that used to working with them. But now that everybody's gotten used to it, so it's become the new normal. So, but it also, so it means we're contacting more clients, but we're doing it more efficiently. It also means that we can't forget the remaining 20%. So if we apply the 80-20 rule, you can do 80% of all of your meetings online. That last 20% where you need personal interaction, where you need subtle negotiation, I don't think that will ever go away. I mean, some of our firms, some of our partner firms have done deals completely remotely. There were a couple of cases where some firms were sold without the buyer actually even visiting the firm, but I think those are exceptions to the rule. I mean, we had situations where there was due diligence done with drones going through the factory and then taking pictures and stuff like that. Okay, those are valid tools, but I think that we're spending a lot of time on fintech and stuff like that. Maybe this is wishful thinking, but probably M&A is probably the last area that will succumb to financial technology, simply because of what I said before. That guiding, it's not just mechanics, it's psychology and it's guidance, and it's a personal approach to the deal, which makes it very important. So that part you can't replace. So I mean, we're used to working remotely. We're used to having conferences remotely. We're used to organizing panels and supplying them remotely. So we've learned a lot, and that part won't go away. But now here's the challenge: to make that transition, we need to know what's effective remotely, online, and what's effective in person, and we need to distinguish between the two. And online and remotely is very good for pushing information. It's not so great for making contacts and connections, except for the panels that you put together and stuff like that, and people get to know each other. But you need that physical contact to be able to strengthen the network nodes that we have throughout the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially, again, when we kind of thought about the idea of people closing deals without meeting each other or without doing the site walkthrough, we're certainly aware of a few examples of that as well. We talked a little bit earlier on about digitization and the use of technology, and it seems as though that's taking a more prominent role in IMAP, especially given how broad the organization is geographically. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about how you see the role of technology on a go-forward basis, and obviously a particular interest to Firmex as a virtual data room provider.
The beauty of our organization, as far as that goes, is that we are extremely flexible. The fact that we are flexible in that means that we're not in what I might call sector silos. So it's not that I'm an expert in industrials, right? So if you're an expert in industrials, you'd better be an expert in the technology of industrials at the same time. And if you're an expert in healthcare, you better be an expert in technology of healthcare, which means that we are constantly monitoring new opportunities. As we're monitoring these new opportunities and trends, we can actually bring together, we can rethink what is the definition of a sector. We can rethink how we should approach this sector, how we can bring together experts that have the sectoral experience, the traditional sector experience, and the technology experience to create both deal teams and to present sector papers and panels on what are completely new areas. So, you have traditional sectors that are, classified and stuff like that. Yeah, they don't necessarily work anymore. And the fact that you have a network approach, that you have a strong network approach, and that you can bring together people from different, let's say, from multidisciplines to put together a multidisciplinary team, that's a very powerful thing. And as long as you look at it that way, that's the way we're approaching new technologies. It's not easy. You have to be on top of what's happening, and all of our people have to be constantly learning. And this is also something that I didn't mention before, but which would try to encourage within the organization constant learning, constant updating, constant reading about different things happening in different sectors, even sectors that are not related to you, putting together the different teams all over the world and that have different expertise. And that's the key. The key is to change with new information and not be stuck in the old ways of thinking. And that's what makes IMAP particularly powerful.
It's very, very interesting. Thank you. What's on IMAP's radar?
We're looking forward to a conference in Paris next spring, and in between a whole number of panels and so forth. And to be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, I was doing 100,000 miles a year on my senator class up until 2019, and now I haven't been on a plane for about 18 months. So I need to get out there and start talking to new member firms and so forth. I don't know if I'm up to it anymore, so I don't know. So we'll have to see. That's what's next for IMAP at the moment.
Just a couple of closing comments. One, first off, thank you for spending time with us today. Your point of view and your perspective, it's certainly appreciated. And I guess lastly, thank you for being a Firmex subscriber. We've been working together for many, many years now, and we're always appreciative of the business that you provide us. So thanks very much for that as well.
So let me make a comment on that. I don't remember who exactly did it, but it was kind of a deal for IMAP members. And Firmex was just starting out. And I can't remember the exact year, but it was a long time ago. It was like, I don't know, 2007, 2008. I don't remember when Firmex was completely established. But we signed on, even though I'm not sure that we actually needed it at the time. But we signed on, and we've been clients ever since. And believe me, there have a lot of competitors have contacted us over the years, but they've never been able to give us as good a deal because we were in on the ground floor. So we've never changed. And it was not just us, but a couple of other IMAP members at the same time. So we've been, and Firmex has been also expanding and getting better, and is a great platform. And so thanks for that. So I'm glad we've grown together.
That's exactly, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say exactly that. We've appreciated the business and the confidence that you had early on, and your continued confidence in the business, giving the volume and the size of deals that your organization is running. It's staggering. And again, thank you for spending time with us today. Certainly appreciate it, and all the best.